those are being subsidized by the general tax levy. And then GO bonds. And we worked our GO bonds down to just a relatively small amount last year.
Go back one.
Yep.
That was real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. In the TIF bonds.
Go back one.
I'll try.
Tax increment bonds. Thank you.
In the tax increment bonds,
Yeah.
when this was set up, there was it was set up with the knowledge that the TIF increment that was collected wasn't going to be enough to pay this off. So it has been subsidized by general fund levy through the years. Okay?
It would have been enough if,
At first it was going to be, but it eventually was
until they changed the tax formula, we were collecting enough to make those bond payments every year, but when the Honorable Jesse Ventura monkeyed with the tax rates on commercial properties, all of a sudden we weren't collecting enough anymore.
Commercial property rates were a factor of, it was like 2.5 times, I dropped it to 1.5 times the normal rate, so the taxes paid in the TIF district came down, so the increment was lower than anticipated. So there is a part of the levy every year that is to pay this down. I think it's a 2000, is it the 96 levy?
Yeah, we refinanced it in '96.
So yeah, this is being paid by, there's a small amount of TIF cash right now, but it basically be paid through that levy every year. Okay, GO bonds, stop me with, some folks want it done quickly, and if there's anything you don't understand, please stop me.
Yeah.
Okay, GO bonds, we paid those down to $470 last year, and then with the new 2009 improvement bonds, I believe they were $2,730,000. We're up to $3,080,000 in outstanding GO bonds. A small $65,000 from 2000, $225,000 remaining from the Pine Meadows and Watt Street, and then the new one. That's what you see down below here. Okay. So yeah, well, the 60,000, small one, the 2002. Okay. Revenue bonds. The revenue bonds, of course, are paid with by ratepayers into your enterprise funds, and the revenue bonds. Were being paid down through '06, and then we started the PFA water and the water revenue notes. You see the brown being added on here, and then last year we had the beginning of the PFA water note. We issued additional amounts of PFA water this year, 724, growing that, and then we refinanced the electric bonds from 2000 to the refunded 2009 A bond. So. We went from $2.6 million up to $3.2 million, and it's basically the additional water, 488. I'm sorry, 724 this year, net of the required payments on the others.
So PFA is considered a bond.
That's a water revenue note. Yeah.
Okay. Is this what we were talking about earlier today? A second one of these?
Yes. Okay. Notes payable. In addition to the different bonds outstanding, there are some other notes. As you know, there's the contract for deed on the land. There's the fire rig capital lease, the ambulance, and the fire hall. Debt service going forward. Not really much, some growth the next couple of years, and then it falls off based upon the existing notes. So that's your required debt service going forward.
That assumes we don't borrow any more money.
That's correct. Based upon debt outstanding at 12/31/09. Okay, capital project funds. We'll start with expenditures there. The green is kind of general expenditures, and those are listed over here, other than the lighter color at the top here is your current 2009 improvement project. The types of things that we spent $1.05 million, as you can see in that first bullet. The things that we spent it on are listed in the bullet. So one of our higher years as far as capital expenditures at over $1 million. Fund balance at the end of the year, where did we end up? We grew fund balance to 706. This is in the capital improvement fund, where these dollars come from. That and the borrowing this year. 766 at the end of '07, 723 last year, and then at the end of '09, 614,000 in capital improvement fund balance. TIF, I mentioned there is a small amount of money left in TIF, $46,000. But remember, there's a $360,000 outstanding TIF bond that's being paid for with general fund levy. The next slide is kind of an important slide. I think we spent quite a bit of time discussing this at our meeting. The Flood Restoration Fund, sewer, water, liquor, and community center all have these dollar amounts. I come to think about $1.6 million in receivables from other funds. They've borrowed from other funds, and as a result of a kind of a chaotic period here in 07, 08, and 09 as a result of the flood, they have receivables other than liquor. I think liquor is about $120,000. All the rest of them have receivables in excess of this amount from FEMA. Okay, so FEMA owes all this money and more to these funds, but since they haven't received it, they had to make the repairs and do what they had to do with funds they borrowed from other funds. So the Capital Improvement Fund, the General Fund, and other funds have loaned money to these funds in anticipation that they'll receive these FEMA dollars and pay it all back. And that is a very slow process, continues to be a slow process, and I don't know since the last time we talked, Kathy, if there's been much movement there.
Well, we had a meeting with them, they were here, was it last week? And we made some headway with getting them to understand our frustration, I think, so.
I think what was interesting, we found that they were thinking they hadn't paid the state portion, and that's the only part they had paid, the 10%.
Oh.
And the 90% they hadn't paid. So of course they act like, gosh, how can that be? You know, the sense I get is that the federal government is trying to really slow the drain. And so they've been very, you know, whether it's here, USDA, you hear it through all of them, it's like the grant for the electric. You'll get it just as soon as we get some cash in the thing, and it should be coming any day. So, don't know.
Well, I just don't want to leave here without making sure you understand the critical importance of this. This is, these weren't dollars that you went out and borrowed outside and now you're waiting for FEMA. They've been borrowed from other funds and are causing some stress on the other funds, as a lot of their dollars have been loaned to these funds so that they can make it through. And hopefully those dollars come in, we get them back in these funds, and then get back out to the funds that they borrowed from. So. Okay, we're going to finish up by going through your enterprise funds. These we refer to as enterprise funds. They're business type funds. People pay rates into these funds, or they pay for a service, and we should be charging enough to make sure that we cover our costs. Electric revenues here in the dark blue, purchase power cost in this lighter yellow, and then your net operating revenue. Net operating revenue is the revenue that you generated less the purchase power cost. So as you look at this slide, you can see that what you want to do is you want to drive up that gray colored column there, which is your net revenue. How much net revenue are we going to have to cover all of our costs, all of our internal costs? So this is what we're charged for our power, and this is what we charge the customers. As you look at it, of course, it isn't that nice slide, because we had a pretty significant event at the end of 07 that started impacting things. But if you think about it, it's basically a flow-through. They charge us for power, and then we charge others for power. So if things are interrupted, we're hoping our purchase power cost goes down at the same rate that our revenue goes down. Our purchase power costs have increased significantly. You can see in what is this, 2004, we're at $600,000. They've grown to be close to $1 million. During that same period of time, I guess you can take 05, shorter period of time, they're just over $600,000 to over $900,000. But look at our revenues. Yeah, there's growth there, but maybe $1 million. I'm sorry, maybe 100,000 from $1.2 million to $1.3 million. So that's what's causing this decline in your net operating revenues. Purchase power costs have gone up faster than your revenue. So, we know we're pretty confident, other than some disruption in here, that things are getting billed out. Of course, during the flood and right after it, I think there was some difficulty in making sure that everything was getting billed out properly. But at this point, it's pretty apparent that we haven't passed along the entire increase in purchase power costs. So by not doing